everyone. Monday night, and you know what that is. That is the Physicist and Philosopher Hour. I'm Wayne Steiger, and the co-host is Dr. Claudia Albers.
Yeah.
How are you, Claudia?
I'm well, thank you, Wayne. And how are you?
Doing good, doing good. Fall is getting close, and so that is a good thing. Cooling off now.
Yeah.
So how's everything on your end?
Well, everything's fine. And, we've had a few changes because what happened. Oh, and Scott says that I should say hello to all the MFA members who are watching this. So hello, everyone.
Hello, welcome.
The March for America organization. And Wayne, the founder of this organization, his name was Scott as well. And he was a good friend of Scott, and he died recently.
Well,
and he was only 48.
Young man.
And so it's very sad. So the MFA organization didn't have anybody to really head it as, in live streams and the information, because they're all truthers. They're all interested in the truth. So Scott has decided, he was asked to, do that sort of thing, the live streaming, to help out with, getting the truth out to the members. So he's live streaming our live stream.
Well, thank you, Scott, and thank you all the members. And truth seems to be the most elusive of all knowledge. Isn't that odd?
It is, Wayne, because we're living in a world that seems overrun with lies, with deception. The truth is being hidden, buried. And it's so sad because we all want the truth. We want to hear the truth. Most people don't mind if it's bad. They'd rather know the truth.
Indeed.
And our governments are hiding it from us.
Well, I did a show today on the national debt, and what I showed in detail to every American what this means. And, Claudia, here's the thing. Two things I want to comment. Number one, thank you, Brandon. Thank you very much. Two things. Number one, when we talk about truth, I think we live in so many lies, we don't even know what the truth is.
That's right.
If we saw it. And I think that's the travesty. The other thing is, as I pointed out to the audience this afternoon, they're not looking, they know they're not going to pay this back. The question we all should be asking, why aren't they concerned? Do you know what MIT's computer came out with today?
What?
Its algorithm has determined the apocalypse is 2031. And it ran through a myriad of scenarios in calculating this. It's a fascinating story. Now, if you look at everything that we've been talking about, it seems to almost be correlating, and I'm just putting this out there, Claudia, of the arrival of a comet. I did a program on, it's the comet right now that is so bright, they're estimating it to be brighter than our entire universe, solar system. How big it is. So, I don't know.
That's amazing. Yeah, but I think that's a very good point. They're not worried about it because this is a system, a monetary system, a world financial system that is meant to collapse.
Thank you. Absolutely, it is.
They designed it to collapse. They make a lot of money. The people who own the biggest corporations keep on making money. And with that money, they're buying real assets, which is land and rights to extract metals from the ground. And in the meantime, all of us are basically slaves because we all work for salary, and then we go out and buy goods with whatever we earn whilst they get all the profit.
Yes, and they tax us, and then they tax us upon the taxes. You know what really chaps my butt I'm going to be very candid with you, is the fact that the American consumer, when they buy gas, when they pay their utility bills, there is a portion of that that goes to the Federal Highway Transportation Fund. Over the decades, Claudia, we have paid for our interstate, our systems. What I don't like is that then you get these politicians that come in here, which are nothing more than stealing out of your back pocket. They start charging you tolls for the
Yes.
very road that you paid for. And get this, Texas, why do you have a foreign government running the Texas tollway system?
That's right. That's one of those corporations that are making the money. It's probably under the umbrella of one of these people that are running banks, that are running oil exploration platforms and things like that. But the thing is, Wayne, it's very clear the system is meant to collapse because it's built on debt, as you know.
Yes.
And if you lend out money to someone and then expect them to pay back interest,
Yeah.
and then you build your own economy on that, then there's never enough money to pay the full amount in the interest.
Oh, and it gets better than that. I mean, here in the United States, we have the Federal Reserve. We have a private corporation, and the United States is the only country that does this, that we let them print our money, and then they charge us interest on our money.
Yes, Wayne, but it's not just the United, that's all over the world.
Oh, so I guess other governments figured that was a pretty good deal.
No, the governments that refuse to do it get destroyed, like Libya.
True that now. And by the way, I did read today in Barron's that China, are you ready for this? China is now printing more currency for other governments.
That learned the game.
God, I'm just saying this, I'll digress here. If for all of you who ever seen the movie Mom and Dad Saves the World, Terry Garr plays in it, John Lovitz is in it, and it's a great movie. It's a good comedy. Anyway, Claudia, the thing is they get beamed up to this planet, and the planet is called Planet Spango. Spango, because it's a planet of morons. I think they were talking about Earth.
Probably.
I think they were. You just go, this is insanity. It is just insanity.
It is. And the fact that people just go along with it. But that's where inflation comes from, because the value of money keeps going down, because you always have to pay back more money than what is available. So the value of money always goes down.
So if we were to do this in an algebraic equation, we would basically have a minus sign. Thank you, Ray. A small gift from the heart of my friends, Wayne, Steiger, and Dr. Claudia. Continue to educate, motivate, and seek the truth. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Ray.
But anyway, the algebraic equation, as I see this, is that A would represent the morons that minus the common sense that ends up to be the debt.
Exactly.
You know what, Claudia? You know what a lot of people don't know the term is chattel. Do you know what chattel is?
No, actually, I don't.
Okay, it is a legal term, actually goes back to the mid 15th century of Europe. And chattel is what every American citizen is. When you get your birth certificate, it is monetized. And when you are born a United States citizen, you are chattel. And if you go into the federal courts, that's what you are.
Wow.
You're merely a number. And I think that is such a weird system that we're born into. I did a whole thing on debt. You know, this whole construct that this whole foundation of our economies are all built on debt, not profit.
That's right.
It's debt.
It's not on value. That's what an economy should be built on value. If you do something that adds value by building a building, then the value of the country should go up. But they done away with all that and instead built it all on debt. In other words, you borrow money, money is created.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I mean, what is wrong with us?
There's something wrong with the shadow government that has taken over the world.
I think it is, and I think it's
And this started a
evil.
long time ago, Wayne. It started with the French Revolution. It started with the Russian Revolution. It was all about this, about establishing the system where they could control the money supply to all these countries.
All right, I'm going to share something with you in the audience. I don't talk about this. There's a side of me that I keep pretty much under wraps. But in 1984, I had a vision. I was awakened in the middle of the night with this vision. Mm-hmm. And I still remember it. It's playing right now in my mind. Mm-hmm. And I was on a platform and I saw before me 3 large armies. There was a red army, a black army, and a white army. And the thing that, today, back 20 years ago, I would have said it was an angelic visitation. Mm-hmm. Today, I think it would have been more of an alien potential visitation. But what I saw, and I actually told my church this, actually, I did a whole thing on this, that I saw what, and these 3 armies bowed down to this one man. And this one man was rising up higher on this podium, higher and higher. And what I thought was the angel back then told me, he says, this man will have an answer to what the world will be burdened under. And the visitation said to me, it's a 4-letter word. Now, I knew in 1984 what that 4-letter word was. It was debt.
Wow.
Today, I'm living in 2018, and I see the world drowning in debt. And mark my words on this, Claudia, when that man arises, and he will have the solution, there won't be one bullet fired.
Yes, but Wayne, that solution is going to be worse than what we have now.
I don't know what the solution is, but the solution
it is in the Bible. Basically, what you're talking about is the Antichrist who comes in with all the solutions.
Well, if that's how we tag him.
But this is one of the reasons why everything is so chaotic, because this man or this system that he brings will rise, order out of chaos. That's a very prevalent kind of philosophy that's being promoted, because this is what is planned. This is how they're going to take over everybody. This is why AI is rising up, because this system will use AI to control every single human being that survives.
And I was telling people today on the show earlier, if you doubt me, just go look at Venezuela. Mm-hmm. I mean, folks, they have eaten all the animals in the zoo.
Wayne, there are 2 countries in the world that this system is not controlling right now. Do you know what they are?
No, what are they?
Venezuela and Syria. You know what's happening in both countries?
Oh, I go ahead.
Yeah, they are being destroyed by the powers that be, because they're not in control of them yet. They want control over the whole world, every single nation.
Listen, I love golf. And so yesterday I was watching the PGA Championship, which, by the way, was thrilling. Tiger Woods. I mean, it was a good distraction. You get that tickle up your leg.
Yes.
But anyway, but my wife and I were sitting there, and she turns to me, and when Tiger Woods was making a putt, there were literally 5, 6, 7,000 people around the hole. Guess what every one of those people had? A cell phone.
Ah, yes, of course.
So, and I'm looking at this now. People know my position. I tell them that we are worshiping a new God because this God, boy, we're getting into more philosophy than we are physics. But anyway, it's good. As I tell people, if you look at the definition of the term worship, it's that which has your devotion and attention.
That's right.
I contend that we give more devotion to our electronic magic, and it's a black mirror, folks. I'm going to do a show on this. But you look, Claudia, do you have your cell phone near you?
No.
No, it's all right. That's all right. I'm going to show my example what I mean by this. So here's my iPad, and when it goes back to, idle, it's a black mirror.
Ah, it is indeed.
It is. Now, people don't realize this, folks, but this is where the spell got cast. Do your research into black mirrors. Anyway, so getting back on to the point at hand, so we can see that our species, our races are just absolutely going crazy. So, Claudia, I pulled this up before you and I started, and I just wanted to maybe kind of, because it validates so much what you're saying. So, folks, I did not know this, Claudia, that there is a super volcano underneath California. And guess what? Apparently, it's got lots of new magma swirling.
I'm not surprised, Wayne. To tell you the truth, I think everywhere on Earth there will be a new supervolcano very soon, because the largest layer inside the Earth is made out of magma. And this magma is heating up and starting to bubble up to the surface.
Well,
so I'm not surprised.
Go ahead.
Especially along the Ring of Fire, there is, I'm sure, magma rising there faster than anywhere else on Earth.
Yes.
And the volcanoes are erupting more and more and more. And there seems to be more and more magma coming up to the surface everywhere where there are volcanoes. And the next thing that will happen is new volcanoes will start appearing.
And that is what's happening. By the way, all you folks on the West Coast, particularly right there along the Oregon-Washington border, your plate, they have measured it now 4 inches, Claudia. It's piling up.
Yeah. Everything is moving. All the cracks on our crust are moving. But do you know that if you dig a hole, say 10 kilometers into the crust, you get to material which is semi-solid?
This is, I think, what you're talking about.
Solid. And this is everywhere on the crust. They did this in northern Russia. That's where they went as far as anyone has gone. And you get to 10 kilometers down and it's not solid anymore. And it's extremely hot.
That's shallow.
Exactly. That's on it. The crust is in places 100 kilometers deep. If you go down 10 kilometers and you hit hot material already, can you imagine how much magma is really under our feet?
So 10 kilometers, is that what, 8 miles?
Yeah.
Roughly? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I think in places you may have to go deeper. But definitely you don't have to go all the way down through the whole crust to get to a place where you no longer have solid rock. You have semi-melted rock. It's so hot.
Well, our big concern here in the Rocky Mountain West, this is the one we're all keeping the eye on. and at Yellowstone. And it's been acting very funny. A lot of earthquake swarms.
And there's this geyser somewhere that's been erupting, and it
this
wasn't
one right here. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And it's not, so we know something's going on. I tell people when I moved up here from Austin, Texas, to Denver, I drove up. And when I drove up through northeast New Mexico, I came across a cinder cone volcano. And I never knew that there were volcano cinder cones in New Mexico. But the interesting thing is, Claudia, as you drive, you can see the topography of the land. You can see where at one time lava flows were coming through.
Yeah.
So here's another one. Global heat wave has set the Arctic Circle on fire. So there is some real serious things going on up here.
Indeed. And there's fire everywhere. I've heard, I'm Portuguese, so I've heard about all the fires in Portugal. And
now, did you know people in that area? It was
my mom lives in Portugal. And I was speaking to her, and she's saying that all she hears on the news is about the firefighters that end up in hospital and are killed because the fires are so hot.
Oh my goodness.
And the fires are started on purpose. It's been like that for years, that people are caught setting the fires. But now they have those directed energy weapons as well. Some people have caught the beams.
Well, here we've just been inundated with the smoke from California. And it's been such a prolonged event now that people are beginning to get lung issues, because the smoke, as most people realize, is smoke is heavy particulates.
Yes.
That's why it's smoke.
Yeah.
And it's not good to breathe.
It's not. Especially if it's from these materials that are burned. So, the houses are made out of very artificial materials. It's not wood. It's plastics mainly. So when houses burn, you get all this toxicity coming from them.
So this is real concerning. We're seeing fire everywhere across the world. I understand up in Russia that they've had a fire. I guess of these bogs, deep peat moss up in Siberia on the edges where it's getting warmer. That apparently they don't go out. They just keep burning. It's crazy. Well, I found this one. I thought that this one was interesting, that the Gulf Stream is now showing signs of basically weakening.
Well, years ago, we were told that it had stopped flowing completely. So what do you mean weakening? I doubt that it's even working at all.
I'm just kind of telling you what they're saying here. I mean,
I know. They always have telling the truth, but actually they're lying. The Gulf Stream, I don't think, is working very well anymore, and that's because of all the ice melting. And ice is made out of fresh water. So when fresh water mixes with salt water, it disrupts the flow of currents. And there are other reasons as well, because there's been such a huge difference in the climate, because the ocean is warming up. And why is the ocean warming up? Because the oceans are littered with volcanoes, the seafloor, and these volcanoes are erupting. So, of course, the ocean is warming up much more than the atmosphere. Although from the upper atmosphere, we now have the warming up as well. But that's due to the stellar core material entering, the debris from the stellar cores entering our atmosphere and causing these reactions in the atmosphere, because they absorb energy and they create ionization. So this is one of the reasons our climate is in total chaos.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that, I tell people all the time, the problem I have with the global warming crowd is this. they continue to put the blame on man, and that is ludicrous. What we need to do is have a frank, honest discussion, and let's talk about the sun. Because, Claudia, on my list, oddly enough, I wanted to talk about the fact, are we seeing potentially the harbingers of a new ice age?
Yeah, the thing is, I think an ice age is very unlikely because mainly the planet is heating up from the bottom and from the top. The upper atmosphere is getting very hot. Now, that does not mean we cannot get cold weather at certain points on the surface of the earth, much colder than usual. I think European winter is now getting much colder than it used to be, possibly because the North Atlantic drift is not working very well, because that used to bring warm ocean to that area of the world. It's not working too well now. But basically, the whole planet is warming up. And it's not just our planet. The other planets in the solar system have been warming up since the 1970s. There's plenty of evidence about that. I'm going to start writing articles on that soon.
Well, this just brings up your point right here.
Yeah.
And I'll just digress and allow me to cut in. I have a lot of friends that live in La Jolla in that area. So, folks, the reason why it's been so GD hot there is that because, Claudia, what's happened typically from the north comes the colder water out of the northern Pacific, comes along the coast of the United States, and this cold weather comes up to the surface, makes it ideal.
Yeah.
Well, guess what's happened? It's reversed.
Oh, my goodness.
The big story on this, folks, and you really should read this and do your research on this, because this is a real problem, Claudia. This water is so hot, it's changing the marine life and the ecosystem. Now, hot water at the surface is what's causing what we now know here in the West for this drought. There's no more cool air coming inland that lifts up and is taken into the inner interior. So there you go.
Wayne, I'm not sure that's the reason. The drought's been there for many years. And I know in Africa, there's this Namibia. It's just desert there. And they have a cold current flowing across there. And it's very cold water, that coastline. And inland, all you get is desert. There's no rain. It's a desert, the Namibian desert. So I think California would have been dry with that cold current. And the warm ocean, most coastlines that have warm ocean actually get a lot of rain. So I don't think the drought is to do with the current at all. I think most likely what they are doing is actually doing some kind of weather modification. As you know, they have the ability to control the weather. And I've written some articles about that as well.
I have them pulled up here.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, they never do anything good with the ability they have to actually cause rain. Instead, they do the opposite. They always try and destroy things, destroy countries, destroy regions of the earth with their abilities. They are evil.
Well, I don't argue that. There is definitely that. So as we get into your papers, I want to bring up this story again, that this story continues to get more and more bizarre. And I brought this up through the archives. This was August 6th when it was first announced that this was the second story. The first one we had was the brown dwarf. And that's what they were calling this. Then they came out and said, no, it's actually a rogue planet that has incredible auroras and this huge magnetic field that is apparently influencing Earth.
Oh my goodness. Okay. The thing is,
I mean, I'm going, it's they're saying it's 20 light years away. How the Okay.
How is that possible?
Yes. How is that possible?
Aren't they saying that Jupiter's doing something to our planet? Because Jupiter is getting incredible auroras too.
Oh, I sent you the picture that
Yes.
was taken by one of the viewers, Melissa. It was just and as she said, she didn't do anything about it. It makes one wonder, doesn't it?
Wayne, it's absolutely ridiculous. They absolutely say nothing about what's going on with the sun. The fact that there are objects there are objects in the corona, it's irrefutable. The images are there. I show them all the time. I just written an article, which I'll send you soon, about that, where I show the pictures. It's absolutely obvious that these objects are there. Are there any astrophysicists saying anything about it? No. Instead, they're looking 20 light years away and saying these objects are influencing Earth. When we have objects at 1 AU away, which they are ignoring.
Now that's an AU is approximately 93, 94 million miles.
93 million miles, yes.
So someone wrote me, we get a lot of emails and I forward many of them on to you. So someone brought out, could Claudia talk about the Kuiper belt, the Van Allen belt, and the Oort cloud, specifically the Oort cloud, as to what is it? Do we really know what is in the Oort cloud?
Okay, so the Oort cloud is supposedly the solution to the comet problem. And the comet problem is that these objects are coming in to the solar system at extreme elongated orbits, and they are very colorful. They have comas, they have tails, and the scientific community cannot admit that there are electric effects occurring in the universe. Comets are actually electrical in nature. They're just like asteroids. They're pieces of rock. But they come in, and when they come at a very elongated orbit, they go through different potential differences, and that causes them to discharge what's called the solar capacitor. So they attract current ions, positive particles, and negative particles from the sun. These combine and create water, sodium dioxide, when they have chemical reactions. And at the same time, light's emitted. That's what comets are all about. But they said, oh, well, these objects are just snowballs. They're just full of ice, and there's just ice coming out of them. And they're coming in very fast from this elongated orbit, and they must come from outside the solar system. So they must be around the solar system a belt of objects, a spherical belt, a spherical shell, where all these like asteroids are, but they mainly ice. And now and then something perturbs them and they come into the solar system. But they've been there since the beginning of the solar system, because they cannot bear to realize that there are new objects coming into the solar system from outside of the solar system all the time. They want to pretend that the solar system is the way it is from the time it was formed, and all these objects were there already. Nothing is coming inside the solar system from outside it. Everything was there from the beginning, because they're afraid that people might start asking, but what else could come in and cause trouble for our planet? So that's where the Oort cloud. Now, there are lots of astronomers that don't actually believe that there is an Oort cloud, and Carl Sagan was one of them. And there is actually no evidence that there is a Oort cloud. No one has actually come up with enough evidence. It's just a theory for where these comets are coming from. I actually believe that these comets are coming from outside our solar system, just like the stellar cores. The Planet X system is coming from outside our solar system. And So these objects are just moving through the galaxy, and they just happen to come into our solar system. That's all. And but they don't want us to even question that, and that's where the word cloud came from. The other is the Kuiper belt. There is some evidence that there is a type of asteroid belt outside the orbit of Neptune, where there are lots of asteroids. And they may be other objects. They've now placed Pluto as one of them. That's why it's no longer one of the planets. It's now called a dwarf planet. There are supposed to be many such dwarf planets within the Kuiper belt. And then there is the asteroid belt, which is between Mars and Jupiter.
I'll pull that up right now.
And
so let me get this back. Here we go. So here's Jupiter.
Yeah.
And here's Comet 67P. You know, this is an odd little booger. Been following this a while. This Comet 67P, it's anyway, I digress. So here we are.
Have you noticed how many comets we've been having for quite a few years now?
Yes.
We have a lot of comets because I think there are lots of new objects coming into our solar system all the time.
Yes.
And amongst them are a huge number of stellar cores, because there's a system that's starting to engulf our system, and that's the Planet X system.
Yes. Yes. So, you know, another thing is, Claudia, while we're talking about this, here's Enki.
Yeah.
I find, you know, I digress to the Sumerian side of me, but is that we're finding more and more of these exoplanets now. I mean, here's Ceres over here. Here's Enki over here. I mean, and people have a difficult time realizing that in between Mars and Jupiter, the asteroid belt, that there at one time, I still contend there was a planet here.
I most likely think there was a planet, because it's not normal to have an asteroid belt in the middle of planetary orbits. Well, first, even with the accepted theory of planetary formation, where just pieces of rock become planets, why would somewhere in the middle of all that, it didn't occur for that section? It doesn't make any sense.
No.
I don't think that's how planets form at all. I actually think that planets come out of the star itself. Just like, you remember when we were talking about that picture that you now have on your wall?
Yes.
I said how these star clusters form, that the galaxy ejects entire star clusters, which then separate into separate stars. That's what it looked like was happening. What happens then? The stars separate into planets or smaller objects. And I've reached the conclusion from observing the stellar cores, there's not much difference between a planet and a star. The main difference is size. The planet, the sun is huge. It's just like a planet, but it's huge. So it has a lot of energy. It's able to emit a lot of light from its atmosphere. Earth emits some light from its atmosphere because it's got lightning.
Yes. And by the way, I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm realizing, and we're still learning, all mankind is still learning, that a planet doesn't need a sun to actually generate light.
No, because the stars and the planets all generate energy in the same way, and it's from the core, and it's through fission. It's the same power that powers the nuclear power plants on Earth. They are formed with a huge amount of unstable nuclei. And remember, we were talking about the periodic table, that it doesn't end. So
Yes.
when a star forms, fusion occurs, and fusion can go to extremes, and very heavy elements can form. These very heavy elements are unstable, and they're actually the energy reservoir within the core of a celestial object, like Jupiter here, for instance. And for the sun, because it's huge, of course, it has a lot more of these unstable nuclei. That's how it generates heat. Why is the Earth so hot on the inside? It's not due to formation. The Earth is actually generating heat and melting rock and producing the magma.
So, Claudia, can I ask you a question on Jupiter? And here we have a graph showing an inside cut of it. So we see here in the atmosphere that heavy in helium, same thing down here, helium and hydrogen. Is it possible that those elements could ever become a fusion reactor?
Yeah, in fact, I believe that Jupiter is in fact having fusion reactions in its atmosphere. It has huge amounts of lightning, just like Saturn in its atmosphere. And when you have this amount of lightning, what occurs is actually fusion occurs within that material. It gets extremely hot, but it's not just about heat.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the electric interaction, which gives rise to cold fusion, which gives rise to elements transmuting and things like that. It occurs. Even on Earth, in our lightning, there have been some papers written about gamma rays being emitted as a result of lightning in our atmosphere. And gamma rays are very high energy radiation. Whenever you have very high energy radiation, you usually have fusion taking place as well.
Interesting. So I'm going to pull this back up. I apologize how it hit on that, because I think you're bringing up a really interesting point for myself, is that, and I know that Arthur C. Clarke actually postulated the idea in his 2001 Space Odyssey, that in 2010, and the follow-up on that, that Jupiter actually did become reignited, and the mass amount of the moons around that planet started to become planets.
Yes, I remember that about Space Odyssey 2001. And I enjoyed that movie very much. But there's no need. Jupiter is already a star. It emits a lot of radiation, produces a lot of heat. And I don't think they call it a gas giant. I don't actually think that these planets are made out of gas mostly. They have a gaseous atmosphere, but probably not very far down, you will probably meet a surface.
Interesting.
Just like the sun, I don't think it's gas anymore. I think just like the stellar cores, there is that gaseous envelope around it, its atmosphere, but below that there's semi-solid material, and below that there'll be solid material.
And isn't it odd? I was just looking in here. So we're seeing the core elements. Again, Saturn is much like Jupiter.
Yeah, they are. They're both stars. The reason why I call them stars is, and the way I differentiate stars from planets now is they have rings. Jupiter has very thin rings.
Yes, it
And it
does.
actually has a capacitor around it. And the way we know it is because when the comet Schumacher-Levy 9 crossed into the region close to Jupiter, what was in its tail changed from water to sulfur dioxide. And that's because the comets absorb material, ions, from the environment. So that meant that there is a different environment around Jupiter than there was in the rest of the solar system. The rest of the solar system was the solar capacitor. Around Jupiter was the Jupiter capacitor. So that means that Jupiter, is having a solar wind. It's ejecting particles from its atmosphere and creating this capacity, this ring pattern. And Saturn, of course, we know has rings because we can see them. This comes from material ejected by Saturn. And therefore, Saturn has a type of a solar wind, just like the sun. That's why they are both stars.
Interesting. I just want to point out, here's Neptune, and you can see it has a completely different structure than the Saturn and Jupiter.
Yeah, well, I don't believe very much that they actually know what the structure is, because they come up with the structure based on theory, not on actually sending probes inside the planets.
That's a good question. I had someone ask me to ask you that question. Why do you think it is that we do not send more probes to, as he said, the moon, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn? Those would be the ones you think we'd be exploring.
The thing is, we do not want to explore and look for solutions to which the powers that be don't want us to get the answers to. That's why we don't look at the sun, because of what's happening there. That's why we look 20 light years away and say that's why this is happening.
So here's the Earth, Claudia. That's a lot of heat.
Yes.
I mean, you look at this.
And it's getting hot all the time.
Yeah. And it's a completely different structure makeup than what we've seen in the outer planets.
I think actually Earth is the only planet we know more about the internal structure than any other. But I think whatever Earth is like, the most of the other planets are like on the interior, in the interior as well. That's one of the things that I think we can translate to the other planets, because as I have seen from observing the stellar course, it's the same for all objects, small and large. They all have the same type of structure. I think they all formed in the same way. The stars just emit an extreme amount of light because they are so huge. But even the planets will emit some light,
and
like
then
our planet does.
You see, and they're proving that now with the rogue planets, that they don't need a star.
That's right. I mean, they're finding that, but if they had been looking at the stellar cores, they would have discovered that long ago. But of course, that's taboo. We don't look at the stellar cores.
You know what? I have found out there's two things. There's a lot of taboo in this going on: religion and science.
Yes, they've made science into a religion, Wayne, because it's about what you believe. Oh, the Big Bang model has clearly been falsified, but we just like it too much. We still believe in it.
Well, it's a good show. It's funny. You're going to go and take the Big Bang out of the whole situation. You just took all the joy out of it.
Exactly.
Well, it just goes to show you, and I'm just going to pull up Cirrus here because, again, you know, now this clearly looks to be a moon to me, but it's, again, Claudia, is the fact that we're finding these spherical objects out there, and not just one, there are thousands in our solar system.
Yes, and Jupiter now has 79 moons.
What's up with that? I mean,
it's going up all the time. But only 53 have been named so far. But the thing is, it keeps going up. One of these days, Jupiter will have more than 100.
See, now that's getting weird. That's all I got to say. You know,
I mean, all the outer planets are gaining more and more and more moons. I think Earth has gained quite a few as well, but they don't want us to know about those because, you know, then we would realize something maybe up in the solar system. But but that's why we have those sun simulators and those chemtrails, because they don't want us to see what's out there, what's actually affecting our planet.
Well, to be very candid with you, I had my telescope out the other night, and by the way, it did not. I'm just going to be candid with you. Made a video on it, and I'll post it. Jupiter was eclipsed.
Oh my goodness.
Folks, I asked my wife to come out and take a look at herself. And she, bless her heart, she gets up there, looks through the eyepiece, looks back at me, looks in the eyepiece. She says, it's eclipsed, and walks back in the house. So, and that's my wife. I mean, Lynn is a very practical person.
Yeah.
She's a no nonsense
Uh-huh.
individual. And of course, I'm still trying to tell her, well, it's not supposed to. She's in the house already. It's like, what's your problem? You're not believing what you're seeing.
Yeah. The thing is, I think there's this YouTube channel called Boogeyman. And he also has a telescope, and he was looking at Jupiter. And as he was looking at Jupiter, it broke up into two pieces or something. And I thought, yeah, well, because it's a holographic projection. And it's very difficult to get a holographic projection of planets inside our atmosphere that are supposed to be in the outer solar system and get it right from every point on the surface of the Earth. I must give them credit. It's extremely difficult to get it right, which is why we're seeing so many mistakes with it.
Oh, they're coming in all the time, Claudia.
I know, but they're really trying, Wayne. Of course, I'm being facetious.
I know, and let's see. So Jupiter is what? Jupiter's what? Is it 54 AU away? Is that right?
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember offhand, but it's far. No, it can't be that much.
No. I'm thinking
7 AU or something like that.
Yeah, probably that's what you're probably. That's
yeah.
I'm an error, but
yeah.
The fact is that as I was out Saturday night, even with the smoke that was in the sky diluting what we were seeing, I don't know, Claudia. It just seems like these planets are really bright.
Too bright.
Too bright. I mean,
Exactly.
Saturn. Go ahead.
Because you see, with the chemtrail layer, it's very difficult to see anything outside our atmosphere. I guess during the night it may be easier, but don't forget our sun is very weak. So our sun must be very dim when it's on at all. So that means that the planets cannot be that bright. So I doubt that we actually seeing the real planets very well. I mean, we could still now and then be seeing them, but I doubt that we actually seeing them like we were, say, 50 years ago. I don't think it's possible that we're not even being able to see them at all anymore because our sun is so weak. Because of the Planet X system. So what they decided to do is, instead of letting everybody know that there's something wrong with the sun, they put sun simulators up. And then, of course, what do they have to do? For the moon and the planets, which are just reflecting sunlight, if there's something wrong with the sun, they have to do something about that as well. So they would use holographic projections in the atmosphere.
So I've had a number of people submit videos of the sun blinking.
Oh yeah, well, the sun simulators blink.
Yeah, and and I have one video. I have permission to use it. I wanted to bring it up for you because this individual, and I think it's this one right here. Give me 1 second, Claudia. I want to. You're not seeing this, but I am, and I want. Yes, this is it. All right. So please allow me to show you this, Claudia. You have not seen this. So let me get you here and let's view this together. So this is taken from Orlando, I believe, and I'll let the video speak for itself. Wait for it. We'll let it play again. There you go, Claudia.
Yeah, it's definitely blinking. I mean, I think they're having a bit of trouble stabilizing that simulator. That's what I would say.
That's what I would say. But So, I don't know,
Well,
people.
obviously, that's not the sun. First of all, it's white. The real sun would look yellow within the atmosphere. I don't think we are seeing the real sun from any part of the surface of the earth anymore. It's just sun simulators. And in order to have the sun in the sky for most regions of the earth, you have to have several simulators, many, perhaps hundreds of them, distributed throughout the atmosphere. So,
Yeah.
you can't replace one sun at the center of the solar system on one planet with just one simulator. You will have to have many of them distributed throughout the atmosphere. And so it's a whole system of them, and possibly they simulate the other objects that are supposed to be in the sky, like the moon. That's why the moon looks so clear to us, even though it's supposed to be outside the atmosphere above the chemtrail layer, which produces all this haze in the sky. But it looks beautiful. It's like we are seeing it through a telescope with our naked eye. How is that
Yeah.
possible?
I'm still trying to figure out how it stays up there, but yeah, I'm right there with you.
And when you see it through a high-powered telescope from some observatory, it looks worse than it does when we take a picture with a cell phone.
Yes, yes. I have another
And
video.
that doesn't make any sense.
Okay, here's the second one. I don't know. I have recorded this event myself. There have been others that have done the same. So, Claudia, this one I really don't know what to tell people. I'll let you take a look at it. So, here, this is again in Orlando, in Florida. It's sunset. And look what's happening here, Claudia.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Well, watch. And they're very excited. They're talking and they're realizing that something isn't right here.
Yeah.
Look at this. It goes from horizon to horizon.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
Well, first of all, we have objects that are emitting light.
So right here.
That pink stuff, that pink light, that's not normal to our atmosphere. The only reason we have these is because stellar core matter is entering our atmosphere and emitting this light. We also have stellar cores that are interacting with our atmosphere and are emitting this light. And then we have sun simulators that are inside the atmosphere. So they illuminating the lower part of the atmosphere. The atmosphere is not being illuminated, especially close to sunset, from the top. It's being illuminated from the side. So when you have an object in front of the simulator, it creates these shadows.
Interesting. Well,
and so that's what we are seeing here. That pink light is possibly coming from one of the stellar cores that are emitting that light, but it's below the horizon.
Yeah, and you can see it's in the above, it's up in the upper atmosphere. The clouds here gave us a really good sense of depth perfection here. So, wow. I mean, I just thought I'd show this to you. I don't know what brought it on,
The moment you see pink is impossible to have in our atmosphere. And we usually see it at sunset anyway, when the simulators are illuminating even more the lower part of the atmosphere from the side. And we see the pink. The pink is a mixture of blue and red. Now, at sunset, all that's supposed to be left of sunlight is red. And all the other colors, which is the blue and green, should have been scattered out, and red should have been left. But there shouldn't be any blue left in sunlight at all. So where is the pink coming from? Because it's a mixture of blue and red.
Very
It's
odd.
impossible. This is the reason why I started investigating Planet X at all, Wayne, was because I saw pink in the sky, and not just where the sun was setting, above my head and on the other side of the horizon.
Hello, you warrior princess. Well, I think that this is more indication, Claudia, that I mean our whole reality, to me, it's like we're in a washing machine. And it's very difficult to figure out what cycle we're on. Because I don't know if we're in the wash, rinse, or spin.
Yes. This is where a physicist training helps.
I bet it does.
I spent a long time training my students to focus on one thing at a time. It's very difficult. They find it extremely difficult to learn, but because of our limitations with our brain, it actually takes training to focus on one thing, and then the next thing, connecting the two, and then connecting another one. But you have to focus on one thing at a time, and then pull something else to connect it with, slowly and carefully. And it takes training of your mind to do that. And that's part of a physicist training, to be able to focus on just a few things, sometimes just one thing, and progress from there. Because if you start to think of the whole universe, you are going to get lost.
Very, very good, folks. This is why we come here Monday nights. You know, Claudia, you're teaching us. And I think that if all of us can just take a, you know, I say, well, what's your takeaway? Well, I think number one is that if we stay focused in one element, and I like how you said it, then we can begin to build other elements to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's much how I write software.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons also why I like writing, because it slows my mind down. So I have to focus on one concept at a time. And once I get that concept, then I can remember something else that connects to it. And then I built all the theories like this by taking the observation, connecting observations, figuring out what goes with what. And that's how I built everything. But then this is how a physicist is supposed to work. That's why I was training my students to think like that.
Well, you're training us.
Yes.
And it's working. And
wonderful.
You know, I got to tell you, I say this all the time. Every time we meet, you know, it's an honor to be able to have you, for these shows, because I think it's so rare to have a trained scientist, a physicist, a particle physicist on top of that, that will take the time to, and what I love about your style, Claudia, is that it's such a way that a layman as myself can not only comprehend, but I can apprehend the theory behind it and the thought. So
yeah, the thing is, Wayne, I believe that a physicist who cannot explain theory and concepts and their own research in terms that anybody can understand, then they don't really understand what they are doing.
I love that. That we ought to begin to copyright. I like that. Well, this hour has gone by. I tell you, Claudia, we had the largest audience in here tonight.
Wonderful.
We were getting close to 400 people. I think it was 410 is what I saw at one point.
Wow.
So, you know, folks, continue to send us your emails. We do our best. I can actually, looks like we have someone from, I don't know, Daddy J. I don't know what that language is. It's all Greek to me.
I don't have it up. Because
yeah, it's I don't know what that is. So maybe so.
I'll look at it later.
And you have quite a fan club, Claudia. They just love you. So.
Thank you. That's lovely.
Well,
yeah, for me, it's a privilege. You know, Wayne, I enjoy teaching. I enjoy it when people understand something about the universe, because I was able to enlighten them. I love to see the light in people's eyes when they understand something. I love that when I saw it in my students' eyes. And I just
what we need to do? We need to get you to go on tour.
Oh.
That may be an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think, wouldn't that be something, folks, if, we could actually begin to get an idea to do a road show? Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be good. Yes.
Well, we might want to think about that.
Mm.
What do you have planned for this week? I know you're always reading, you're always writing. I mean, folks.
Yeah, I have just written one little article based on one question. And I wrote it so fast, but it was the question, why don't astrophysicists something like recognize your work or something? So I knew immediately what the answer was. And that is, first of all, they are silent. Why are they silent? Because they cannot refute the evidence, because the images are just too many showing these objects are there. So they are silent. There's nothing they can say to refute it. And they are silent because they are afraid. Because if they go with the truth, then the same thing will happen to them that happened to me, that happened to Holton Arp, that happened with James McKinney. And if they're not low down in terms of prestige and being known worldwide, they will be even more in danger. In other words, if they're well-known astronomers, they will be killed.
And that's
Schumacher, Eugene Schumacher he was a planetary scientist, and he discovered that the impacts on Jupiter meant that comets were not little snowballs. That's what he discovered, and he was killed because of it. I think they tried to kill him and his wife, who was an astronomer.
I think they did too.
And she survived, but he died. And Robert Harrington.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, and they all died because I think they all began to realize something.
Yes.
And no one wants to admit to this. I tell you, I see more cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, but the astronomers know. That's why they will not go. They are silent. They will research what is safe, which is what is 60 light years away, 1,000 light years away. That's safe. They will not look at the sun because their lives will be in danger. If not their lives, at least their careers.
Well, I will be doing a video this week that you will find very interesting. The video is Sectarium Omega, and it deals with the Vatican and what the Vatican knows of this system coming in. And I'll just leave a little teaser for everybody. The Vatican knows that this planet is inhabited. And it's inhabited with a warlike species. They sent their delegation here nearly 70 years ago. And the Vatican knows. And in fact, that is the reason the Second Vatican Council II was formed, Claudia, to deal with the question, what happens? And the reason it was formed was because immediate contact. And they need to begin to prepare 1.2 billion people of the Catholic faith to begin to accept this. And oddly enough, there have been 3 popes in their pontification, when they were pontified to pope level, in their speeches that they gave to the folks at St. Peter Square. They all gave clues inside their speeches to this. So stay tuned.
That's very interesting, because I actually have studied quite a bit about the Catholic Church. And to tell you the truth, I wouldn't even like to call them a church, because as far as I know, the whole religion is based on Babylon. It's a nasty one. Out with what was Nimrod?
Yeah.
Nimrod and his wife, and it's all about that. And what happened was, when Rome was in decline, they decided to start at Vaticanus, which was the place of the diving serpent, where they had the temple to Janus. They decided to change the statue of to Jupiter into Saint Peter, and the statue to Venus into Virgin Mary. So that's how they started. It's basically the Roman religion, which was based in Babylon, got changed to the Catholic Church. So, and so to me, it's false Christianity.
What really got them
in control of the world. The Pope sits on the throne of the Holy Roman Emperor.
That's what the Holy See is, what they call it.
Yeah.
All right, Miss Claudia, it's been fun. You know?
Yeah, it's been wonderful.
All the viewers for March in America, is that right?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
And Scott is helping out, and it's a lot more work for him, but I think it's quite a challenge for him. As you know, he's
a smart guy. I think he will
he's
do it best.
Extremely smart.
Yep.
Extremely.
Yep.
And I think he's enjoying the challenge.
I think it's good. Listen, challenges do us good. They really do. All right, folks. Well, we'll see you here next Monday night, and send your questions. I forward them to Claudia, and so
I'm sorry, Wayne, I'm not very good with email.
I know it. I know it. I'm telling you, they are building a process, folks, very soon, where we're going to be able to merely think. And then, so I'm going to do the first thing, Claudia, and I'm going to try this experiment. So I am going to say this to everyone. Now, see, did you pick that up? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That's how the Japanese do it. They say thank you like that.
Yeah. Namaste. So we appreciate all of you. Claudia, you're just the best. We thank you for your time. Folks, go over there and subscribe to Claudia's channel. The link is provided below. Listen, we need to support scientists like Dr. Albers. Dr. Albers has paid a heavy price for her stance and what she believes in. And I tell you, when you see a person who will put their career on the line, that, folks, is what I call someone you can get behind yourself. So, Dr. Albers, I thank you. I thank you for the fact that you're a voice amongst many silent voices. And we're the better for it. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
All right. All right, folks, be good to yourself. We'll see you again real soon. Thank you, all the moderators. Thank you for everyone who's come in. We will see you again real soon. Be good to yourselves. Dr. Albers, we will see you next week.
See you next week.